This is the #1 recommended book by Warren Buffett, and the name of this book is The Outsiders. Now, The Outsiders, it is one of my favorite books ever because it allowed me to understand, especially in the age that we live in, that is this internet era of businesses. This book allowed me to have a perspective on how great CEOs actually think. And as the name says, is The Outsiders, and it talks about 8 unconventional CEOs. Just for you to have an idea, I love this book so much that I have the physical form and I also have the audiobook, and I hate audiobooks. Now, the cool thing about this book is that it doesn't talk about CEOs that we are used to see in the news and so on. It doesn't focus on Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. I believe that the only high-profile CEO that we have in this book is actually Warren Buffett himself. And the reason for that is that this book, he analyzes the CEOs by the performance of the company during the time that the CEO was at the company and not by public appearance. Now, a lot of people think that Jack Welch was the best CEO in the world. Yet, people in this book outperformed him by miles. And there are 4 main lessons that I actually learned from this book. It's funny because one of the person that is here in this book and is the only female on the book is Graham from the Post. And actually, after reading the book, I actually got motivated to watch her movie, and it's a really interesting movie. And of course, it's called The Post. But the main thing that I got from this book was on how CEOs spend their time. And even though, like, for example, for my company, at the level that I'm in the company, I end up doing a lot of work that my employees should be doing. This book literally showed me what was the main thing that I should be focusing on. And one of those things is capital allocation. Now, capital allocation is a system of distributing your resource, in this case money, to different sectors in order to generate more money. And it's funny because nowadays, like, we focus a lot on, I need to do cold callings, I need to do cold emails, I need to reach out people on LinkedIn, and like, I need to do these YouTube videos, I need to do like the next 1,000 blog posts, I need like to post on Facebook, I need to track like and post on Instagram and Twitter and so on, and we get bombarded with a lot of these things, and like you need to network and stuff like that. And it's funny that these CEOs, all of them had one goal, and one goal only, and that goal was to focus on capital allocation and also just to have a spreadsheet that they could actually track their businesses. Now, the reason that this book was really impactful for me was that I was already managing my company for 1 year, and during that 1 year, my focus was to get more clients, do the next big LinkedIn reach, do this and that, and I had like zero spreadsheets for my company. I knew how much money we were making, but I didn't know how much money we were spending, where we were putting that money. I would shoot like for the budget for marketing, for example, for my company, instead of actually sitting down. So I would have the KPIs, but instead of sitting down and map everything, I would just simply do it. I didn't have a process of measuring how the campaign was going to work for the company. I didn't have like a budget to manage the contractors and so on. So reading this book, it literally shined me the idea that the main focus for a CEO is to make the company survive. And you cannot make your company survive without you having these sort of things, without you having your spreadsheets and doing what is the important tasks for your company. And more often, they would not go out on doing, for example, what we are told to do, that is networking. They'll be staying and focusing on what they need to do, that is where they need to put their money to actually grow the business. The other thing that I took from this book was the decision-making process. And it's interesting that it says that this is 8 unconventional CEOs. And the decision-making process for those CEOs, it's amazing. Because, for example, while it was showing weakness to Wall Street, buying back your stock, right? Wall Street would see that as a weakness. They would buy the stock back and then they would sell it on a much higher price later. And it's funny because most of them actually did this. Most of them actually would buy back their stocks and then sell it later on. And that was one thing that usually Wall Street and the gurus, like, they would think that they were crazy. Why would they buy their stocks back? And the profits that they were able to generate in companies by doing that were like amazing. And the money that they were able to generate, their ROI was higher than any other company in the market. The other thing that I learned from them was that they don't care about revenue. They care about cash flow. For them, the numbers that you do are not as important as the numbers that you have in the bank. It's not like if you say like I do like $1 million in revenue, right? And that is the numbers that Wall Street likes to hear is, look, my revenue is like I do $1 million a year and that's my revenue. They didn't care about the revenue. They cared about the cash flow and how much money you actually had in the bank. So that was their priority instead of revenue, was how much money can we make that actually stays with us instead of doing the revenue, right? Because it's really easy for you to have a $1 million revenue and then have like a $1 of profit. Believe me, it's really, really easy to do that. So focusing on cash flow is extremely important. So decision making, the cash flow, and also where you focus your time. Where you as a CEO in this noisy world of doing social media marketing, doing posts, doing blog posts, doing this and that, where you as the CEO, you spend your money to actually grow the company. It's funny that in decision making is actually what made the Post become the newspaper company that beat the competition. They literally beat the competition because of decision making. So what happened is during the war in Vietnam, basically New York Times leaked information about what was actually happening in the war. And the president at the time, he was like suing the Times for doing that, and he was basically censoring other newspapers. And the Post at the time was a really, really small newspaper. And Graham, she had more courage than any other's news out there, even though she was a small business and was like a family business. She risked losing her business during the time that she was having investments from a bank to actually tell the truth, to actually hold her integrity, to actually hold what she promised that she would do in her newspaper, that is to bring the truth to the people. And by doing that is what made the Post become the company that it is. And funny enough, one young investor at the time, he bought, I believe that was 22% of the shares from the Post. And even though against every single person advice, Graham went to actually talk to that young investor that became her mentor, and that young investor was Warren Buffett. So the thinking process behind everything is extremely important when you are taking decisions at the company. And one of the reasons that for me this book was so impactful is, first, I didn't have the level of organization that was required for my company to actually grow. I didn't have spreadsheets, I didn't have any sort of organization for the company that was related to the growth of the company. And more than that, allowing me to actually see where the money is going, and not only that, take the decisions that will actually make the company move forward. For example, one decision that I actually had to make was to either if I should hire someone to actually help in the company and do work and allow me to focus in doing company work, or I would use that money to actually bring more clients to the company. And seeing that perspective, it seems like a choice that has nothing to do with another. But when a company is growing, like mine was, for example, hiring someone would mean that I would have to be taking money from what I would be using to marketing and actually get more clients. On the other hand, if I had more clients and I didn't have someone to hire, I would have to do the work that my employees should be doing and not focus on my work as a CEO for the company. And even for that decision-making process, I created a system here at my company that scores the importance of every decision that I have and then allows me to literally select by the importance or the score that I have in that decision that I had to take. And this book is a must-read for every entrepreneur out there. It's an amazing book and I highly recommend it. So just go ahead and grab yourself a copy of The Outsiders. And that's it for today's video. Thank you very much for sticking around. I do a video like this every single day and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.